Hi, everybody, and welcome into the Westport Magazine Summer Series special coming out of lockdown interviews. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. What are these? These interviews over the next couple of weeks and months will be with very influential Westport residents, leaders of all kind, might be from media, might be from government, might be from business, the arts, restaurants, you name it. We welcome your ideas, so let us know right here at the Westport Magazine Instagram feed. Send us a DM if you have a recommendation of someone you would like to interview. See a lot of you hopping on right now, which is fantastic. Thanks so much for being with us. Again, let us know any recommendations of people from our area you'd like to hear from. You'd be surprised how many people live in this area and people just don't get to hear from them. Who am I? Nobody really. I'm a longtime television news and sports anchor. Most recently at CNN, where I hosted a show called Early Start. That was 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern Time. Yes, that was brutal. Prior to that, I was at NBC Sports. I was a host from the Olympics, from NASCAR, and the NHL, you name it. I probably hosted it during my time at NBC Sports. And prior to that, spent 5 years as the host of Weekend Fox and Friends at Fox News. So no matter what your politics are, you can probably find something you agree with me on or disagree with me on, but this is a politics-free zone. Don't worry, we're not talking about the president or Congress today at all. We're going to have some fun and we're going to talk about sports and Westport, what we all love about it. Who am I again? My wife, Brandy, you may know from the RTM. You may also know her from the Young Women's League or many of her other volunteer activities around town. Follow me at Dave Briggs TV on Instagram. Love to get your feedback. I have 3 kids here, 14, 12, and 8. Emerson, William, Logan at Staples, at Bedford, and at Long Lots as of next year. We've been here since 2008. So let us know your questions right here. As you all are saying hello, you can just pop your questions right into our comments section for our guests or offer recommendations for future guests. Without further ado, let's welcome in our guest today. He is a 12-year NFL quarterback. He is a Bridgeport native who played high school football. There he is. At Shelton High School, he was 28-4 as a starter. He was 12-0 his senior year. He started UConn for 4 years. And again, 12 years in the NFL as a quarterback. Dan Orlovsky, now a star at ESPN, no better NFL or college football analyst than Dan. And he's a Westport guy, folks, if you didn't know. Dan, good to have you on, brother. How you doing?
What's going on, man? I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I cannot complain, my friend. Talking to you, it's good times. The weather is nice out, and the kids are finally done with the homeschooling madness. Let's go ahead and get right into what you do. You are an analyst for ESPN. You folks can see Dan just about every morning on Get Up, one of the best shows in television. I never miss it. The great Mike Greenberg is the host of that. What's it been like the last 3 months working from home with a very busy house?
Yeah, so first of all, very busy houses because we have 4 kids. My wife and I have triplet 8-year-old boys who are full boy. They are absolutely nuts. And then we have a 4-year-old daughter who's probably more nuts than them. So hence the busy house. Working at home is in many ways been very cool. You know, instead of having to drive into New York City at 3:30 in the morning, I can wake up at 5 o'clock at home. So that's been better. And there's also been some challenges, you know, because more often than not, and you know this, you know, hey, if I work on Wednesday and I've got to do Get Up and First Take, I do Get Up and First Take and I'm home and my day is done work-wise by 12 o'clock. Well, now that the people that have access to the technology to do the home studio are smaller, you know, the day goes from Get Up to First Take to Sports Center to NFL Live. I just got done doing that. Then radio in the afternoon, then 6 p.m. Sports Center, then late SVP Sports Center. So the days are just very long, sporadic hits. And so that's been a little bit different and challenging, but it's also been really cool to be one of those people that's been on a bunch during, the free agency period of the NFL where Tom Brady switched teams, and the NFL draft, which is obviously a big deal. And so there's been some positives and differences to it, and there's been some challenges that we've kind of jumped through.
All right, let's talk about some of the personal challenges because we've all been going through them. What's been the most challenging part to you about being at home, trying to school the kids, trying to do work, and make it all seamless?
Yeah, for my brain not to be completely overloaded. Like sometimes I'll forget, like, oh gosh, I've got an 11:45 first take hit, and it's 11:41 or something like that, and the ability to like get my jacket back on, my suit and tie back on. I'd probably say one of the biggest challenges is me having to put my own makeup on. Yes, I wear makeup. It's a little bit of a shine control. I'm obviously not good at that. It's somewhat of a humbling experience to wake up. Like I went from being this, at least I thought, tough football player, just kind of I guess a guy's guy type thing. And then all of a sudden I'm at home, I'm waking up, I'm complaining that my coffee's not ready, I'm putting makeup on, I'm wearing gym shorts and a suit and tie. So just the day-to-day experiences are a little bit different. And then having to tell my kids 14 times a day, guys, be quiet, when they have no idea why they have to be quiet.
Now, have those kids made some cameos on ESPN?
Yeah, they came one day. It was the first week where everything kind of became work at home, and I was going it was Friday. It was 5 straight days of 12, 14 hours being on. It was NFL free agency week. I had not really spent a ton of time with the kids, and it was one of those things. It was the back end of the show on Get Up, and I was like, you know what? In between a commercial break, my daughter came and brought me eggs that my wife made me, and she gave me a little kiss, and the producer was like, wait, can they come on? And I was like, if it's okay with you guys, they'll love it. And so they hopped on, and they were on ESPN. They thought they were the coolest kids in the world, obviously. So they've popped on. We've had our dog on as well, too.
The kids are now legends, national television stars. For those of you just joining us, thank you for being on. It's the Westport Magazine summer series of interviews as we begin to come out of lockdown and experience some sense of normalcy. So give us some tips. Like what did you use to survive these last 3 months? I'm thankful to have kids finally learning how to ride a bike, playing some board games. And then sometimes I give in and let the boy play Fortnite for hours on end. What's been key for you?
My wife's been an absolute rock star. My wife is just never skipped a beat. And we moved here really in September. We moved from Philadelphia, so we were really new to Westport. We didn't have a lot of people that we knew in town. We didn't know the town that much either. And so my wife has been a rock star, just like, let's go. Today, we figured today out. So that's been a big deal. The weather has helped. Our kids, we live on a really quiet street. And so our kids can rip up and down the street in the go-kart, which probably doesn't happen a lot in Westport, or their bikes. Yeah, so that's been helpful. And I think just getting my kids to understand, like, hey, this is where we are right now. This is what we got. This is what we're doing. And so they think it's cool sometimes too. Like I think they get that their dad gets to be on television and sports, and so they think that's really cool. Red wine has been a big friend of ours over the past couple months, and so that's certainly helped us get through the day. So we've just tried to, every single day, just keeping it real, just tried to every single day find something to smile about as a family or laugh about as a family. We all know that a lot of people are going through a lot of stuff. So we just tried to have some fun, man.
Former NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky with us, played 12 years in the NFL. He started Shelton High School. The 4-year started there, 28-4, 12-0 as a senior. Starred at UConn, brought them to their first bowl game, and now he's starring at ESPN. Got to check him out on Get Up, one of the best shows on television. I watch it every day. First Take, you'll see him on NFL Live. So everyone's wondering, you guys that are on TV during quarantine, do you really wear pants, shoes, and socks?
No, I have not worn pants on television. I'm strictly in shorts. A lot of time flip-flops. I'm a flip-flop person. So a lot of time I'm in flip-flops with my rainbows, and I'm wearing shorts. It's challenging because sometimes, like, my wife will look at me and be like, what are you wearing, dude? And I'll be like, listen, they're getting like here up, but there's always, listen, you see stuff on the internet where people make some mistakes and they think you know, you can't see below the chest level or something. And a lot of times the different shows will have a different amount of people on the screen. So sometimes a producer will be like, I need you to sit back a foot. And you're like, sit back? I was sitting here all morning. And there, you know, sometimes it's 3 people in a box, sometimes 4 people in their box. And so that dictates how big the box is on the screen. And so
If anyone, it is just Dan's Wi-Fi that is currently having a little bit of issues, but you just never know with the technology gods. Hopefully Dan can jump right back on with us once his Wi-Fi is connected. Always the best laid plans. So we'll take the moment to go ahead and ask you to send us your questions for Dan Orlovsky, the former NFL quarterback, played 12 years in the NFL. He's drafted by the Lions. He played with the Bucks. He played with the Rams. He played with the Texans. He was a star at UConn, 4-year starter, a star at Shelton High School, 28-4 as a starter, 12-0 his senior year. And he moved to Westport back in, I think he said September. So this is still something new to Dan Orlovsky, still getting used to this town. Dan, go ahead and see if you can request to join us live once again. And we'll see if we can dial you right back in, because technology never likes to cooperate. I'm sure that never happens when he's making his national television hits on ESPN each and every morning. Dan, are you back with us? Okay, we'll still waiting for Dan as he reconnects, and he's back with us. So you left us with the producers getting into your ear as you're trying to adjust to working at home and the things around you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big challenges, actually the biggest challenge for being on television at home. So like, this is my setup right here, okay? This is just a tripod with an iPad, and then I have an IFB cord. This is what sits in my ear. I plug it into my phone, I dial a number, and that's how I can hear the show. But I don't see anything. I just see myself on this iPad. So like, there's a ton of challenges, and if people have watched ESPN with, you know, Get Up or First Take, like there's this delay. People are talking over each other. Producers are telling you to shut up. You've got 20 seconds. The biggest challenge is just not seeing. You don't get to see people. You don't see their facial expressions. And I do a lot of like tape breakdowns where I'm breaking down football on television, and I can't see the play. And so what I have to do is tell the producer what I'm going to do is like my tee up word wise, so the producers know, press play, so the people at home can see the video, and then I have to memorize the pacing of the play to try to control it. And so that by far has been like the biggest challenge for me, is the amount of time it's costed me, or I had to spend like trying to get that greased.
Great. So glad to see some of the questions coming in the bottom of the screen. We'll try to sneak those in at the bottom of the interview. Just put them right in the chat for those of you new to Instagram Live. So Dan Orlovsky with us, ESPN analyst, longtime NFL quarterback and star at UConn. Curious, you've only been here since September, so maybe this is a tough question to answer. Every time I'm in one of the sitting on an airplane, I'm reading the magazine because I love the 3 ideal days in, might be Denver, might be Istanbul, might be New York.
Sure.
Give me Dan Orlovsky's ideal Westport day so we can get to know you and your relationship with this town.
All right, ideal Westport day is waking up and just enjoying a cup of coffee at the house with my wife. We get our coffee from Stu Leonard's. The vanilla nut is our favorite, so I go down to Stu Leonard's, get the ground up beans. And my wife has kind of created this little room in our house that's got a really nice fireplace that overlooks just our front yard, and just sitting there and enjoying nice natural sunlight, cup of coffee. And then a lot of times for lunch, you know, we'll hang out with our kids and be around and whatnot. But for lunch, I'd probably say my 2 favorite spots to go down and hit lunch are Gigi and Joe's, which just opened up. I'm a huge acai bowl person right downtown. It just opened up about a month ago. or Freshie. I love salads as well. Those are like the two favorite lunch spots that we can go kick it with our kids or whatnot. Go downtown, walk around the water, go on that kind of point loop around the library and walk around there. That's a ton of fun. Find somewhere to walk throughout town, whether it's, like I said, down near the water, or my kids love to go the nature area right off the post road. I forget the name of it. I'll think of it. But my kids love to be walking around outside. We, beach cruising around on the bikes with the kids. And then for dinner, if we're not eating at home, we love to go to Little Pub or Little Barn, and rip through Little Barn or Bar Taco, or go down to the water, sit outside on the sand in the sunset and order from Joe's down on the shore, down in the water, and do that. So I think it's just a really cool town to be outside in, and the more time that we can spend outside as a family, we do it.
I'm with you, man. You find me down at the beach, I am in heaven. Bring my dinner down there. Haven't been out to too many restaurants yet, but I can't wait to get back. I know we can get back to restaurants inside and outside now, so I know we're all excited. And Gigi and Joe's is not a place that I know. Have been to Freshie and some of the others that you mentioned. I certainly love to get out to. So what brought you to Westport? You've been here since September.
Yeah, we lived in Philadelphia for a couple of years, and I was doing the commute up to New York City or up to Bristol for ESPN. My morning in New York City for get up starts at, I got to be there about 5:30 a.m. So I was leaving Philly around 3:30, and so waking up at 3:15, and that was becoming a difficult drive to do 3 days a week. And then going up to Bristol, if I had to be on at 7:30 Sports Center, I'd have to leave the house at 2 a.m. to get up to Bristol because it's about a 4-hour drive. We didn't have necessarily plans of moving, but ESPN and our conversations and what their plans were, it was like, what am I doing? And so it was, all right, we got to get closer to New York City and Bristol. And I had conversations with my wife, and she didn't know Connecticut well. I obviously did somewhat from growing up in Shelton. And I said, listen, if we're going to move to Connecticut, Westport should be number one on our list. Schools, obviously, the people, number one on the list for us. The people, we're beach people. My kids are beach bums. My kids, their first 5 years of life lived right down the street in Clearwater Beach, Florida. And so they're beach bums. So they love the water. They love to be outside, like I said. So, for all the things that you're looking for, school-wise, location-wise, it's in between Bristol. It's in between New York for me. It's on the train line. My wife's mother can hop on the train in Trenton, take a nonstop train to Stamford, and we're 15, 20 minutes from Stamford. So, for a lot of those different reasons, Westport was the easy thing for us. And it's only really exceeded our expectations.
Awesome. Your number one choice. I felt the same way. We moved from Boston back in 2008, and it was really the only place we looked. So it really wasn't much of a choice. Yeah. It's good to hear you like it that much. So I'm not sure if you've been to a Staples High School football game yet. Hopefully we can get you out to one of those. I guess you probably missed last season. Very good football team at Staples. But at the youth level, Dan, I've noticed this town is seeing diminishing numbers of youth football players. My son's 12. They had to combine with another town to form one tackle football team, which was shocking to me as a guy who grew up playing football. Are you concerned about the diminishing level of youth tackle football players? And what about your boys? Do they play? Will they play?
My boys do play football. I have one boy who plays football. I have another one who I think will end up playing football. This is obviously a really interesting conversation to talk about and subject to hit on, right? So first of all, my son, who's 8, plays flag football. I grew up playing flag football. I consider myself to be a pretty physically tough person. I think you have to be to play football as long and have some of the injuries I did. I don't know if I don't think I can sit here and say definitively that I became tough because of the hits I took as an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old playing tackle football. I think I became tough because of the work that it took to be a football player and the mental conditioning that I went through. And then as the hits became a little bit more real at a 14, 15, 16-year-old age, when you kind of have that conversation with yourself of like, that hurt. Do I want to do that anymore? I think you're mature enough to have that conversation. So I I don't think that playing tackle football as an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old is really beneficial anyway. I think that the work ethic that those kids can develop will be much more impactful than getting tackled as a 10-year-old by some kid who's 20 pounds heavier than you. Do the numbers concern me? No. One, because, again, I just told you I'm a fan of flag football. Well, absolutely before the age of 12. Two, the leader is the NFL. In the NFL, every decision the NFL makes is not for player safety right now. It's for moms and dads. The NFL has decided to protect quarterbacks, yes, because it's their moneymaker, but it's to make sure that Timmy and Tom's mom, as they're 9 years old, is going, okay, I'm okay with them watching football. Because kids who watch football become fans of football, and they become intrigued with the game. And so the fact that the NFL is adjusting their game so much, I think will be this trickle-down effect. This is what I would say to parents. I've played football since I was 8. I'm 36. I'll be 37. This is just my personal experience. I don't know a single person that has CTE or has negative ramifications from their mind when it comes to football. And I've played with thousands of guys. I'd say this: let your son play football if you feel comfortable with it, and go to the practice and watch the coach. And if the coach is an idiot, don't let your son play football. But that has nothing to do with CTE. If your coach will challenge your son and do things the right way, then there's only going to be benefit that will come from it if they do it the right way. And so that would be like my encouragement to parents.
That's good advice. Dan Orlowski with us. Connecticut native, started Shelton High School, started UConn, in 12 years in the NFL as a quarterback, and now a star at ESPN. Catch him every morning on Get Up. Want to ask you about a bit of NFL news. Dr. Fauci weighing in today, saying unless players are essentially in a bubble, insulated from the community and tested nearly every day, it would be hard to see football being played this fall. And if there's a second wave, football may not happen this year. What was your reaction?
Duh. I think we're aware that this NFL season is going to look a little different. And let's take away the option of there is no season, right? So if the only way that the NFL has some form of a season is to either create a singular bubble or 32 bubbles where each team is quarantined, that's fine. Most careers in the NFL are about 3 or 4 years long. So those guys that have that opportunity to make that money, if you tell them, hey, the only way you're going to make that $600,000, $800,000 this year is for you to be quarantined for 150 days away from your family in your own bubble, every guy's going to make absolutely. Because in 2 years, they're not making that money.
Yeah.
More than 60% of the NFL is league minimum guys. It's not everybody, very few guys make $10 million. So again, how many years do you have to make that money? 3, the NFL, each team makes about $250 million of revenue a year. If you take each organization, which is about 120 people, if you take the NFL season, which is about 150 days long, and you create 32 individual bubbles, to self-quarantine those guys, meaning put them up in some form of a hotel and feed them for the season, is going to cost each team about $9 million. Every team is going to say, yeah, we're going to do that, because it's the only way for them to make money. And so I think that, if the option is don't play the season or have these some form of bubbles, every player or 99% of the players is going to say absolutely. And every team is going to go, that's what it takes to have the season. We're going to do it. So the reason the NFL hasn't come out with a definitive plan is because everything keeps changing and they're going to be agile. And that's the right way to do it right now.
Oh, the country desperately needs football. I respect Dr. Fauci, but we all need football. And I can't imagine there's a single guy who would opt out. They risk their bodies every day on the football field. Couple questions from viewers. Joe Heyer wants to know, will Colin Kaepernick get a job in the NFL? He's been out of the league several years. You've got Cam Newton, a former MVP, who is not signed, and Jameis Winston is a backup for 1 year. Does Kaepernick get a deal?
If Kaepernick wants to be in the NFL, I think he'll get a deal. Colin may sit back and go, you know what? I haven't played in 4 years, and what I'm doing right now is my time commitment and where I want my journey to take me, and it's not worth it right now, then I don't think he will be. But if Colin goes, you know what? Yeah, I want back in. He's plenty good enough. You know, Michael Vick went 44 months without his starts in the NFL. 21 of those months were spent in prison, and he came back and balled. So I don't look as the time away as that big of a deal. I do think that because of the conversations that we are having across our country and society, that an owner is going to have the opportunity to do so. And if Colin wants to be a part of the NFL, I think he will be.
Just think it will beg a whole different question. If he is signed, then won't it point directly to why didn't you sign him 2 years ago? Are you acknowledging that he was blackballed? Did racism or what factored in then? So if he's signed, that could lead to some uncomfortable questions even then. Karen Hess would like to know, did you play other sports as a kid? And I guess part of that question is, Dan, parents are so specialized now with their kids and their young athletes. They're playing baseball 12 months a year or soccer 12 months a year. Did you play other sports, and do you have tips for parents raising young athletes today?
Yeah, I played every other sport, essentially, you know, baseball, basketball, and football. I didn't have any type of specialized training. I started to train athletically, like to get bigger, faster, and stronger right around the age, I want to say, of maybe 13, but it wasn't a focused, specialized training. Obviously, that's an epidemic that's going on in our country right now. I personally hate it. I'd say to this to parents, do you want to have the best 10-year-old or do you want to have the best 20-year-old? You know, like so many parents I feel nowadays become consumed with, I got to have the best 10-year-old on the baseball team or football team or basketball team. I'm like, but are you hindering his ability to become the best or her ability to become the best as a 20-year-old? And, you know, sports are such an example of life that kids got to fail and fail and fail and learn how to pick themselves up. You know, sometimes if your son is the best lacrosse player, that's great. And if he stinks at baseball, he needs to play baseball more than lacrosse because he needs to know what it's like to not be the best. And he needs to know what it's like to be just another teammate where your role is different than being the dominant player. And I always try to get parents to understand you got to have a long-term picture of this stuff. You got to have the long game view. If your kid's going to become good enough, you live in Westport, Connecticut. There's going to be plenty of eyeballs on that athlete, whether it's a boy or a girl, and how good they are at something. But I think a lot of parents do an injustice to their kids by focusing one specific sport. Allow them to go out and fail and see what they become great or good at.
What about the kids themselves? What are they missing out? Like if I'm able to tell my 12-year-old something, that's great advice for the parents. But what about the kids? What are they not doing right now that can help them and not get to the NFL, but perhaps just starting at Staples now is a feat in and of itself, or perhaps playing in college? What's your advice to kids?
Well, first of all, just playing different sports, you train different muscles, you train different technique, you train different athleticisms. But a lot of times, you know, to become good at sports, it's more often than not, it's up here. So playing basketball is totally different than playing baseball. It's totally different playing football. The mental aspect of it, the way that happens, the quickness of it, the decision making, the body placement, the leverage, all those things. All those sports can make you better at what you do. Also, just the people that you can connect with. Basketball players are different than football players. You can pull from those guys. Oh, the football players act this way or they look at it this way. On the basketball court, maybe that makes you a little bit tougher. All right, basketball is all about, you know, body angles and moving. Maybe that makes me a better receiver. Baseball is a lot about patience. Maybe that makes me a better lacrosse player or something like that, where I think a lot of these kids, you know, I'd say this to kids too. And parents aren't going to like this, but it's your journey. It's your walk. Your parents had their opportunity. They had theirs, whether they took advantage of it or not, or it was a different they had theirs. You go walk yours. You go earn yours, because at the end of the day, you're going to be sitting there as a 25 or a 30 or 35-year-old, and you have to put your head on the pillow at night. And so you've got to respectfully tell your mom and dad, I need your help, but this is my experience. And I just need you to give me what I'm asking for or what I earn or whatever that conversation is. But I need you to support me in the things that are my dreams. I don't want to live your dream. And you've already had yours. And I think that's really hard for kids to stand up to their parents about. I had to do that conversation with my dad. You go walk your walk and go have your journey. And if your mom and dad don't like that, then that's a situation that they've got to figure out for themselves.
Was hoping you'd tell all those kids to get off of Fortnite, because that's what I do every day, and so many parents around town have to do that. We're running out of time with Dan Orlovsky, a 12-year NFL quarterback and a star at ESPN. Joe asked you about Colin Kaepernick. Bill would like to know, will the networks, in your opinion, focus on the kneeling, or will they downplay it in the broadcast? And do you think it will be a big distraction? Could it divide teams, or will we see them take a knee in their entirety?
I don't think it'll divide teams. What the networks will do. Listen, I think that there's a lot of factors that come into play with that. Sitting here today, I would take a guess that the networks would choose not to cover it. That would be my guess. And if that's the case, guys will find different ways to create that, continue to be part of the conversation. And I think we're having a lot of examples of why it should be part of the conversation. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. It'll be interesting to see how the owners want it handled. Way above my pay grade, thankfully. But I think that this is a very evolving conversation.
Would you take a knee if you were still playing?
Oof. I think that I would, and that's different than it was a couple years ago. I think that I've got a lot of friends that are part of the military, but I've learned that it's not a protest of the flag or disrespect of that. I think I would, and that's different than in years past. Those guys are my brothers. Those guys are my family members, and I'll ride with those guys through thick and thin.
We have heard a white quarterback, Baker Mayfield, say he'll take a knee. A head coach, Bill O'Brien, say he'll take a knee. So it's going to be a storyline every bit as big as handling COVID in the 2020 NFL season. Can't believe we're already out of time with Dan Orlovsky, but he's busy as heck. He's going to probably have to bounce on SportsCenter any minute now. Check him out on ESPN. Follow him, D. Orlovsky, on Instagram. And you can see his awesome kids on there and his wife, Tiffany. And if you see him around town, don't bug him. Just say hello and tell him he does a fantastic
job. I actually love when people come. I love when people come say hi. The other way would be that wasn't the case. So I love when people come say hi, man.
Awesome. Appreciate the time. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, bro. You're welcome.
Okay, thanks to all of you for joining us today on this Westport Magazine Summer Series interviews. Shoot us your DM. Excuse me, the voice is going. Shoot us a DM if you have a recommendation, someone you'd like to see interviewed this summer, or get involved with these interviews. Shoot me those questions right here in the chat. We'll get them answered for you, as we just did with Dan Orlovsky, who's a terrific interview, and don't be afraid to say hello to him when he is out and around town. You might see him at a couple of the restaurants that he mentioned earlier on today. People we have coming up: Craig Melvin from the Today Show, Allison Camerata from CNN, our first selectman, Jim Marpy. We will reach out to several other guests, but give us your recommendations. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time. Follow me at Dave Briggs TV on Instagram.